We've got some major breaking news on the coronavirus. First, Florida has declared a public health emergency due to two presumptive positive coronavirus cases. We are now hearing about the first case of coronavirus confirmed in New York City, which means it is probably much worse than you realize. This is huge from Reuters. In the last 24 hours, there were almost 9 times more coronavirus cases reported outside China than inside. This is actually a bit of good news. But hold on one second. I got another big update. New York doctor warns coronavirus cases will surge in the thousands by next week, and 3 critical weeks were lost in containing the spread because CDC tests failed as female healthcare worker becomes first confirmed case in the state. Another big breaking news update. Markets are beginning to stabilize. They are recovering. And I will say it. I said it last time. The people who bought the dip are going to make off like bandits on this one. Apparently, the sell-off that we were seeing was automated. As more people sold, algorithms started selling. If you were smart enough to buy in when it was down, it's probably going to keep going up. As of right now, it's up about 1.5 points. So we're looking at 365. Might not mean a whole lot to a lot of people, but if you're got a 401k and you were buying in when it was down, it's going to go right back up. This kind of stuff happens, right? People panic. They go and they buy a bunch of, products and stuff. They sell a bunch of stock, and then things get better. So what I want to mention about the Reuters case and then we'll read about New York City because I think that's the most important. In the last 24 hours, there are almost 9 times more coronavirus cases outside of China than in. Here's the thing. China has had an authoritarian crackdown. So they have begun to stabilize a lot of the problems. The spread is slowing as they essentially crack down with harsh authoritarian measures. The reason why we're seeing a larger spread outside is most likely to that, at least in my opinion. But I want to tell you, we can't really do the same things China has done. They are a dictatorship as far as anyone's concerned. So yeah, they can show up with guns and men in suits, lock you down, and you can't do anything about it. Here in the Western countries, mostly, like more so the US, it's a lot harder to contain when people have civil rights. It's a sad truth. With freedom comes those risks. But a doctor in New York is warning things are going to skyrocket. Now, like I mentioned, we do have our first confirmed case in New York City. I want to give you just a really quick, brief statement on the emergency in Florida. Ron DeSantis said, "Tomorrow I will be in Tampa and Miami with Surgeon General Rivkees and other officials to discuss our continued statewide response to COVID-19. Florida Department of Health says they have 2 presumptive positive cases, 1 adult resident of Hillsborough County and 1 adult resident of Manatee County. Both individuals are isolated and being appropriately cared for." I guess put up on another tweet. Okay, so it's both the same tweet. They said Florida's public health system is well prepared to handle COVID-19. Our healthcare professionals throughout the state are implementing the appropriate protocols and are ready to respond. Please make sure to visit the Florida website for up-to-date information. So for those that are in Florida, it's floridahealth.gov/COVID-19. Make sure you stay on top of this. I want to stress, as I do with most of these videos, we are not facing the apocalypse. Please, everybody calm down. You see, a lot of people have already started panicking. And I got to say, it is kind of frustrating. And I said this, don't panic. Do not, well, people did. They're rushing stores. There's lines out Costco like crazy. As soon as they get a confirmed coronavirus case, people freak out. I do think there is good reason for us to be prepared. I will always say it. And I think it's good reason the governments are reacting this way. And the most important reason, I think, is due to the amount of beds available. So in the United States, for every 1,000 people, we have about 2.6, 2.7 hospital beds. That is really, really low relative to many other countries. The issue here is that if people are asymptomatic for a couple of weeks and then get hit really hard and really fast, and we're looking at around 18 to 20% of individuals needing hospitalization, if there is an outbreak in a small town, we may run out of hospital beds. So that's a real consideration. And it's already starting to happen in some parts of the world. I believe in Italy, they're facing a shortage. So if a lot of people are getting sick, this is bad news for the rest of us. The Daily Mail, let's read a little bit of this story. Dr. Matt McCarthy, who is a staff physician at the New York Presbyterian Hospital in Manhattan, also claimed he doesn't have the tools to properly care for patients because of the lack of coronavirus tests being made available to hospitals. Health officials in New York have been scrambling to get their own coronavirus testing kits up and running after getting stuck with faulty tests from the federal government. that they said left them unable to diagnose people quickly. Dr. McCarthy told CNBC's Squawk Box on Monday that the bungled test's distribution was a national scandal and claimed New York had only been able to properly carry out 32 tests so far. We hear it's coming very soon, but I'm here to tell you that at one of the busiest hospitals in the country, I don't have it at my fingertips. I still have to call the Department of Health. I still have to make my case and plead to test people. This is not good. We know that there are 88 cases in the United States. There are going to be hundreds by the middle of the week. There's going to be thousands by next week. Let me tell you something. If we know that there are 88 cases in the country and we have a lack of testing, if we were accurately testing, we'd probably see the numbers skyrocket. So right now, it looks like numbers are stabilizing to a certain degree. This is worldometers.info. We can see so far 3,069 deaths, 45,636 recovered. The mortality rate for closed cases has gone down by 4 percentage points. And that's good news. And it's likely due to the fact that we know about it, we are reacting to it, and we are taking precautions. Now, I want to say a few things to all the haters acting like nothing's wrong. Everybody just calm down. 3,000 people lost their lives. And this is going to affect more people. The mortality rate is estimated to be around 2 to 2.2% based on current stats, maybe around 2%. Some say even as high as 3%, whatever. That's around the number, right? And a lot of people are saying, oh, so what? What do you mean, oh, so what? People are dying. Like, we don't want that to happen. Even if it was one person, we look, I understand there's scaled response. If one person got a mystery illness and died, nobody would be talking about it. Yes, more people die from the flu, but the mortality rate for this disease is higher, mostly affecting people with pre-existing conditions, compromised immune systems, people who are older or really, really young. But of course, I think it's important to keep on top of this. There's a lot of people say, oh, but why aren't you reacting this way to the flu? Because we have a system in place for the flu already. Yeah, I know the flu, it hits people hard, but it's like a 0.1% mortality. This is substantially higher. And now we can see what ends up happening when people wait too long and they panic. I'm going to show you this tweet thread from Karen Weiss. She said, really should have done my regular Costco run last week. I've never seen it like this. This is a few miles north of Seattle. This is a Seattle tech correspondent. Huge lines in Costco for regular groceries. These people are not buying the entire store. Look, you can see one guy's, well, that's a big box of granola bars. I'll tell you what, Nutri-Grain bars. But this dude, look, he's got some, I don't know, what is that? Like some kind of frozen fajita thing. He's got some chips. A lot of people are doing regular grocery shopping right now. And that's why I've been saying, go do your grocery shopping. There are a lot of haters. They want to drag me because I did a promo for emergency food supplies. You cannot, literally the pitch I've given is don't let anyone shame you into not taking care of yourself. You can make fun of anybody you want, dude. The last person who's going to care is me. So you see how people are reacting, and I'm definitely, here we go. I'm going to do it. Let me tell you what, if you go to safeandreadymeals.com, there's a funny little picture of me. I do think the website might be a little over the top, but they're selling 2-week and 4-week food supplies. They have a bunch of other things. It's $87 or $197. Listen, the point is you're probably not going to use this stuff. My buddy was telling me the other day, he was like, every time someone gets a cut, they say, where did I put the Band-Aids? Because you never use them, but you have them, right? The crazy thing to me is that there are people who literally drink water and eat food every day who think they shouldn't have a little bit stored that'll last a long time. Not because the world is going to end. You people are nuts. I'm not talking about, to an extent, the naysayers screaming the end is not. Yeah, I think you're a little nuts. But the people who are like, I don't got to do anything. Dude, I was in Sandy. Okay. And now here's the bigger issue. So here's what I'll say. If you want to get a bucket, they're like little bins. It's 2-week food supply. They say that it lasts up to 25 years if stored properly. You can go to safeandreadymeals.com. It really does help support the channel, so I'm really grateful to them. It is not like my company or anything. They just use my picture, and they want to. You don't need to. They say prepare with Tim. I roll my eyes at this, but it is good stuff. It is. Look, it's not because I think you're going to need it. It's because I think sometimes people panic. Sometimes people rush to the stores, and sometimes hurricanes happen. Sometimes earthquakes happen. Right now, there's a big delay on these things, so you'll see the link in the description below. You're probably not going to get them for a couple months, but don't panic about the coronavirus. Yes, it's a serious issue. We should be reacting a bit over the top, a little bit, Vox.com, for instance, said it's not overreacting to prepare. And it's because we want to make sure, as one doctor from Switzerland I talked about yesterday, we want to make sure there's slack in the system so that you don't run out to Costco right now and have a massive line of people to buy your Ruffles potato chips. Now, that's not what you'll need the emergency food supply for. That's just for it lasts a really long time. You buy it once, you're good for a long time. And in the event that there's supply chain disruption, in the event that there's, an earthquake or a tornado or a thunderstorm, because these things hit everywhere. We have tornado season. We have hurricane season. With some of the worst flooding ever in Dallas, I believe, in Texas. This stuff happens, man. I can't believe there are people who are laughing, being like, you would seriously have food? It's like, yeah, dude, I got a gauze kit too. No one's ever had a femoral bleed in my house before, but yeah, I have it. The first aid kit comes a little tourniquet too. You're not really going to need it, but you buy it, don't you? I think people are stupid. I think people are dumb. Look, you're not going to build a bunker. I don't want people to think like you're going to go build a bunker, but seriously, you literally eat food every day. So yeah, you might want this stuff. I get it. It's different for a first aid kit. That's for emergencies. Well, what do you think emergency food is for? Anyway, let's get back to it. She says, shout out to the lady who braved this and walked out with just a single bag of popcorn. I mean, people might let you cut in line if you just got a single item. They do. There was one photo I saw that I believe was Los Angeles, and it was a massive line out the door of empty shopping carts of people rushing to Costco. When all this news broke, I went grocery shopping, bought some rice and beans, bought some canned food, and bought some 5-gallon water things. Like, we already use them anyway. We have this really cool thing from Amazon where you just put it on the top and press the button and it pumps the water out. It's really awesome. We went grocery shopping. Is it because I thought the world was going to end? No, it's because this is happening. It's not because of the disease. It's because people's fear of the disease, right? The panic is often worse depending on what's going on. So, look, I don't know what to tell you, man, but humans can be predictable. We knew stuff like this was going to happen. You've got massive lines throughout Costco. I don't know what she's talking about now. She says, Coda to add people were surprisingly patient and the Costco staff were professional and friendly. As always, be safe, everyone. And she said, somebody mentioned around the region, it was clear that residents were bracing. At a big box store north of Seattle on early Saturday, checkout lines were unusually long, snaking down aisles with carts loaded with all sorts of supplies. Here's the big issue. In the normal system, everybody takes their time and buys what they need when they need. But I don't know if you've ever been to a Walmart. The lines are usually bad enough, let alone you're going to tack on some fears over the coronavirus. So we've got a dude straight up saying New York is going to see thousands of cases. This is not the new plague. No, it's just a respiratory illness. Most people will get a cold and they'll get over it. But there are people who will be hospitalized. We want to make sure those people are safe and survive. And we want to make sure that everyone takes care of themselves. And you need to be a bit more self-reliant. I lived in New York. I lived in Chicago. It is mind-numbing to me how much people think they can rely on the system to save them. Look, man, when disaster comes a knocking, no one's there for you. In New York City during Hurricane Sandy, it was crazy to see the flooding smashed out windows. Power was out for, I think, 2 weeks, maybe that's an exaggeration. I don't know. It's been a while, but at least a few days. In some areas, I think it may have been 2 weeks. Nobody can come in and help you because they have to slowly work. I will say this. Guess which part of Manhattan got its power turned on first? The Upper West Side. That's where all the billionaires, that's where all the billionaires live. Areas like Central Park and Billionaires Row. Of course, they got their power turned on first. Lower East Side, however, didn't get their power turned on for a long time. When that happens, what are you going to do? A lot of people had to leave the area and go to other areas to get food. Some people had food in their houses, and it's not the apocalypse. It was just disruption. So are you ready for it? Because now people are rushing to the stores. But I will get to the good news. U.S. stocks go positive. Global markets stabilize on heels of worst week since Great Recession. So let's talk about the good news and why panic is always the wrong thing to do. The markets are coming back. The markets are I'm trying to look over at the meter, but last I checked, it was up about 1.5. The people who bought the dip, they're going to be really happy they did. Now we're seeing the mortality rate is slowly declining as we start to get a grip on this. It may be that it's going to get worse in the U.S. It may already be bad in the U.S. and we're just not testing for it. So we might be behind the curve on this. We should probably get ready. Supply chain disruption seems likely. The CDC said school disruptions, business disruptions. It's not crazy to think you might, be chilling at home for a couple days because local businesses don't want to open out of a fear of spreading. This is actually smart. We're not all screeching that the end is nigh. We're saying, hey guys, we're going to take a couple days off because although the mortality rate is low, the last thing we want to do is exacerbate the problem because one death is one death too many. We don't want anyone to die, but it's likely coming. So let's mitigate this. Guess what? Means everybody's getting a couple days off, at least a little bit, right? Some schools will be closed, but I think it's fair to say it's not that bad. Okay, it's not that bad. There are a lot of people screeching the end is nigh. There are people who are selling, like masks like crazy, and they're probably making a ton of money. And there are people selling full hazmat suits, and I just think that's silly, dude. If you're older, you really want to be careful. If you're immunocompromised, you want to be careful. If you've got young kids, you want to be careful. Same as you would with the flu. But I want to be fair. This is the higher mortality rate than the flu, so we will take it seriously. The markets are coming back. Anybody telling you to bug out or buy a bug out bag or anything like that, for this, calm down. I do think it's fair to have a bug out bag, right? You want to have like a flashlight. You want to have maybe like a GPS or something, because guess what? Fires happen. Like it's crazy to me that people think anybody who might be prepared for this stuff is a prepper thinking the world is ending. It's like, dude, remember when the flood happened? Yeah, you'd be really happy if you had a bag with some extra clothes in it, with maybe some cash, maybe a GPS, maybe a portable battery or maybe a USB charger that uses AA batteries, something like that. Because guess what? These things happen. I know the world didn't end because of it, but people face, disasters. So look, the markets are going to rebound. People are going to be happy about it. There have been some really stupid things, I must say. I'm going to, I can't, I got to show you. A patient in San Antonio, Texas was released from quarantine and later tested positive for coronavirus. This is not the first time it's happened. So we got a sickness traveling far and wide. It's going to be in a lot of cities. It's probably already in a lot of cities. We have 2 deaths now in Washington, potential outbreak at a nursing home. People are getting sick. And to make matters worse, we kind of are bumbling around like idiots. Hey, look, it's a silly thing to say, but the benefit that China has is they're an authoritarian dictatorship. They can come down and just arrest people for talking about it and try and shut everything up and have their, liberation army or whatever show up with disinfecting, sprays and giant drones. Well, we respect freedom, which means we accept the risks along with that freedom. And you know what? It is a risk worth taking. I understand that because we don't live in a police state authoritarian dictatorship like they do, it may actually get worse here. So I will say we've bumbled a little bit with things like this, but you know what? To an extent, it upsets me, but at least we're free. To an extent. There's a fine line between security and freedom, and I always err on the side of freedom. If we're going to have mistakes like this, the best I can do is say, do better. Because we want to get a handle on this. We want to make sure it doesn't spread like crazy. And we never want to justify what the horrifying things China, we never want to justify the horrifying things these dictators do, like people in China. So I guess you get the point. Let me just go through everything real quick just to give you all the basic updates again. Public health emergency in Florida. If we know that there are 2 presumptive positive cases, it's likely infected thousands already. And this is bad for retirees and people who are older. So one death is one death too many. No, we don't want anyone to die from this. Okay, we know we can expect it. So this is why we want to wash our hands. This is why we want to be careful. The reason why you want to have backup supplies or emergency supplies is so you don't have to go to Costco, because that could exacerbate the spread. It's not because the world is ending. It's because you don't want to contribute to its spread. All right. We know that it's being, kind of stabilized in China, which is good news. In New York, we've got a confirmed case. Doctors fear it's going to get worse, and people are going nuts at Costco. Okay, let me stop. That's not fair. People aren't even going nuts at Costco. This is what you need to realize. The people who are shopping, it looks like, are just buying regular stuff. It's their normal weekly shopping period. They're all doing it at the same time, though. You ever see the Simpsons episode where Mr. Burns goes to the doctor and he talks about how Mr. Burns has this syndrome where his immune system is so bad, literally every germ is trying to get in at the same time and they're all getting stuck in the door? That's what happens. Individually, you can go to the store and buy what you need, a couple cans of food, some water with no problem. But when everyone goes at the same time, that's the problem. So here's what I'll say, and I stand by it. Never let anyone shame you into not buying some supplies, some emergency food, or having some stuff, some long-term storage stuff in your basement. Whether or not it's through the site I've mentioned, Safe and Ready Meals or anything like that, you don't gotta. It supports a channel. Ignore me. Do your thing. Take care of yourself. I only shout these things out when I think it literally matters. But the problem arises, or I'll put it this way. I mentioned this, and I'm proud I did, because a week or two ago I said you're going to want to go out and get your weekly grocery shopping done now, because this happens. To all the people who are saying that, like, oh, I'm crazy or stupid for mentioning you should go grocery shopping early, well, what do you say to them now that these photos are showing massive lines, huge wait times, and these stores are selling out on a ton of goods? Look, if you're one of these people who was like, ha, Tim's an idiot, okay, go to the store now. Maybe your area is fine. I don't know. I'm just saying. In Seattle, it's not. In Los Angeles, it's not. Washington had a couple deaths. People are going to their, I wouldn't even say they're freaking out. They're just saying like, hey, maybe we should go out and do this. Right. Everyone at the same time. If you were watching me, congratulations. You probably got a little early. You probably got in a little earlier. We went to Costco like 2 days ago. And we went to Sam's Club. No problems. We did our routine grocery shopping. We got some extra dry food that'll last a little while. That's about it. That's all I'm saying. I think that sounds reasonable, but for some reason there are people who think that sounds stupid, and I just shake my head and I'm like, man, don't knock on my door when the stores are all jammed up and the shelves are emptied. Because I've been in multiple hurricanes. Many of you probably had. Many of you have probably been in floods, and you know what happens at Walmart when a flood's coming. In Florida, it was like a couple of years ago, there was a hurricane coming, and they thought it was going to hit. The stores were empty. People rushing all at the same time. That's why you get emergency supplies. The world isn't ending. It's just hurricane season again. It happens every year, man. I can't stand people. You want to speak reason to them, but they're like, I can't believe you'd be dumb enough to buy food. What do you eat every day? Whatever, man. I don't want to say it a million times. I'll wrap it up there. I think we're going to be fine. The markets are coming back. This is going to be great news for a lot of people who bought in the dip. Congratulations for doing it. To the people who panic sold, I'm sorry that you did, but I can't predict things. All I know is there's a mortality rate. We don't want people to die, but we're going to be fine. Just make sure you are vigilant. And then once this all, starts kicking up in the United States, you'll be sitting in your room watching TV, maybe get reruns of Seinfeld or something, and you'll be like, good thing I got some food, huh? And then a couple of weeks will go by, and it'll be back to normal. I'll see you all in the next segment at 4 p.m. youtube.com/Timcast. It's a different channel. Thanks for hanging out.